But if they work, I mean, it's a win within the first 5 or 6 minutes. And we haven't seen too much of that, so I don't predict to see it in the near future. So we are on Metalopolis. The game has begun, and it is the countdown before, once again, another epic PvP match between these two players in the winners bracket finals. I just want to make it 100% clear, though, that there's still a finals. This is just of the winners bracket. They're advancing to the finals, whoever wins.
That is right. And here in Raleigh, North Carolina, $8,000 or over $7,000 on the line here, and the game has just begun. KiwiKaki versus HuK, and KiwiKaki here has spawned at the 12 o'clock position here on Metalopolis. He is going to be playing as Red Protoss, and his opponent HuK, losing that first game, is going to be spawning at the 2 o'clock position on Metalopolis. So close spawns by air, somewhat distant by ground, but you know what? HuK got to be thrown off his game a little bit. He was planning to go for one base Colossus. That didn't work out so well against KiwiKaki, and this time you got to wonder, is he going to change up his game plan? I do also want to say 4-gate with that proxy pylon, even more powerful than it was on Lost Temple, because you can put the proxy pylon here, or you can put it right here when you have vision of that high ground and start warping in units.
And you know what? That last game, I think HuK is going to be a little bit frustrated, simply because I was talking about this a little bit before, but he has dropped a couple of games where it's kind of like, that's not the HuK I know, not playing 100%, and so he really needs to pull it together right now. If he wants a free ticket to the finals, he just needs to focus 100% on this game and give it everything he's got. I really think that last game wasn't up to his best ability. Not to take anything away from KiwiKaki, he played that off absolutely perfect, where he got those zealots on the high ground, which is what ended up winning him the game. And so HuK is definitely going to just have to focus here and try and drive this win home and take this into the ace match, although at this point winning the first game gives you a huge advantage, because no matter what, you're going to be able to pick the last map.
That is right. That's a great point to make. If you do win the first game, you have that map pick advantage. You can pick maps where you might have a special build lined up, you know, something like on Steps of War with proxy gateways or something like that. So definitely winning that first map not only gives you the map choice if it does go to a third game, but it also gives you momentum advantage, which is also important in StarCraft 2. Looks like HuK has found KiwiKaki's base, starting to kind of just zap that pylon a little bit to see what is up inside his base, and likewise, KiwiKaki has just made his way into HuK's base. Once again, let me reiterate the colors. HuK is the blue Protoss, KiwiKaki is the red Protoss, and HuK here has actually gone for a double gas. I do believe that is a second assimilator for HuK. Very, getting double gas really early on, so he's looking to get a lot of SP gas, possibly going to start teching up to different alternate routes.
I was watching KiwiKaki while you're saying that, HD, and I was a little bit confused because he saved up about 300 minerals, and then he got his pylon, and then he got his cybernetics core, so that definitely did seem to be delayed. I mean, you can wait to get your pylon for that long, but he was supply blocked, I would say, a little bit too longer, so, and that cybernetics core definitely seems a tad bit later than he had planned to get, although the timing of it is still good. It is faster than HuK, simply because, like you said, that double gas is extremely early for HuK, so possibly going to be a sentries to hold the ramp and then start taking a tech path from there, because this map, you're pretty safe against everything except for void rays if you can block off that ramp, and one, I mean, it just takes one sentry to block off the ramp with a couple of force fields, and you will be absolutely fine. So KiwiKaki playing a little bit more standard, HuK trying to do sort of a greedy build, I would say, so he can get his tech out as quickly as possible.
Absolutely, Husky. Looks like HuK is indeed teching up that gas. He's only got one probe on the assimilator. I thought at first perhaps HuK got that assimilator just so that KiwiKaki couldn't steal it, but he does indeed have a probe mining from there. He actually had it fully saturated just a few moments ago. He's throwing down a second gateway, and he is pumping out sentries with that excess gas. Couple probes chasing each other at the center of the lane highway between the two maps, and KiwiKaki here is pumping out dual stalkers. Look for him to throw down 2 more gateways. I think he's got warp gate research halfway done. I think a couple more warp gates and go for that 4-gate attack. It worked before. Why not do it again?
It is interesting that these players have not chrono boosted out their warp gate technology at the higher levels. You don't need that warp gate technology super early, and it allows you to get that extra economy. So if you ever do have to fall back, do note that HuK does have his robotics on the way. This time it was after the gateway, which is a little bit more safe, I would say, because you can get those sentries out to hold the ramp, and this, not going to force field quite yet there, and there is now a 3rd gateway at KiwiKaki. I do not see a 4th one yet, but as I was saying, you do not need to chrono boost out that warp gate technology, and there goes a stalker from that force field.
great force field right there from HuK, catching that Stalker and then annihilating it with the Zealot at the front, and he did not lose any forces, so that's a pretty huge loss, losing that initial Stalker, but KiwiKaki gonna keep the pressure up. He has a couple Stalkers at the front door. Is the Immortal on the way? It is not quite there yet. It's pumping, but there is no Chrono Boost being used on it. HuK here has full energy on his Nexus. He is not using that Chrono Boost, finally using it down on the robotics facility. He needs that Immortal so badly right now. KiwiKaki placing that proximity pylon, like we said before, right outside this ridge. Very effective on this map because he can warp up on the high ground like he did before. He's got 4 warp gates right now. He's pumping out a robotics facility to match HuK as well. The pylon is up, and KiwiKaki has range of the high ground. He can start warping in units right now, right here, and HuK's sentries are not going to be any good at all because they can only block off the ramp. So as soon as KiwiKaki regains high ground at vision, again, with just 1 unit, he will be able to warp in some units up there.
This is a fantastic play style by KiwiKaki here, trying to spot that ledge, although a beautiful force field right there, going to trap 3 or 4 units right there. They are definitely going to get melted away. This is exactly what HuK needed to do in the last game, is take control of the high ground. This is exactly why I was talking about this, and he was able to do a lot of damage to these warping in units. However, he needs to be very, very careful not to lose that Immortal, as these 3 Zealots are now stuck up here. More are warping in, but they do take a lot of damage as they are warping in. He was able to clean that up, so now he should be able to hold ground. KiwiKaki unwisely warps in more Zealots up here. I think that they're just going to go down before they're finished warping in, so KiwiKaki is going to continue this pressure. Is it going to be enough, though? I do believe the Immortal got taken out, but a second friend has respawned. No, this is not a first-person shooter. That is a new unit, and does he have enough to deal with this, though?
Wow, HuK there using all of his Nexus energy on his warp gates. He knows he's in desperation mode right there. KiwiKaki playing brilliantly, warping in units to attack and flank the Protoss forces from that proxy pylon up here on the high ground and on the ledge below. KiwiKaki is now inside HuK's base, starting to pound away on the pylons. All HuK has is an Immortal, a Stalker, and a couple of Zealots. This is a very familiar sight like we saw last game with KiwiKaki in a dominant position. He has forces right here. He can reinforce immediately thanks to his proxy pylons. Stalkers here engaging the Zealots. HuK here needs a miracle. He needs to stay in this game. If he can push those forces back, he locks in the enemies inside of his base with that force field, and I think this might be his saving grace. He is going to crush KiwiKaki's Stalkers and regain control of his base.
That was absolutely played perfect. HuK has got to be feeling so confident right now, but he can't get too far ahead of himself just because his opponent did go a 4-gate. Do note that HuK actually has a hidden pylon over here, so there could be some nasty shenanigans happening in KiwiKaki's base, and so HuK, again, though, has to keep his cool, has to keep his composure, because just because he got a 4-gate, that doesn't, well, it's more of a 3-gate. Well, no, there's the 4th gate. I thought there was a 4th gate there, but if you just cut attacking units for a while, you can get your economy back on track very, very quickly. Although if HuK moves out, he'll actually be able to kill both of these pylons, which will actually supply block KiwiKaki, so KiwiKaki's going to have to prepare for that and start throwing down units right now. If we just take a look at the army tab, HuK is pretty comfortable, though, with 64 supply against KiwiKaki's 46, and Kiwi is currently supply blocked.
HuK here is starting to morph in reinforcements down at that proximity pylon right outside of KiwiKaki's base, really abusing those steam vents where KiwiKaki is not aware of, but he is going to be building a pylon with his probe. Great by KiwiKaki, even though that was more of an accident than anything. He is going to see all this. He's going to start warping in Zealots. He is chrono boosting out of Colossus, and he's getting that range upgrade, but is it going to be enough? The Zealots getting stuck by HuK's forces, forcing KiwiKaki to pull his probes off the mineral line to deal with the sentries. The Zealots are still pounding away, and the Colossus comes out for KiwiKaki. This is going to be enough for him to hold, but is he going to lose too many harvesters? A lot of them going down. KiwiKaki's not running them away. He's just allowing the Zealots to pound on them, and more forces reinforcing from HuK's proximity pylon, and he is starting to push forward with all his army. He's coming up the ramp. KiwiKaki's Colossus is in the red. It only has 3 HP. It's been fighting for survival inside the main for this entire time, and KiwiKaki here is in a lot of trouble. Reversal of roles, the turn of the tables. Is KiwiKaki going to be able to stay alive?
I really don't think so. I don't care how much he micros this Hero Colossus. It has 3 HP. All HuK has to do is just blow like a kiss to it, and it will die. And there it does indeed go down. And so now HuK is in. Now he can get comfortable because he is feeling pretty good right now, as there's not even another Colossus on the way. So this game is definitely going to go to HuK. I can't imagine how HuK could lose this because HuK's economy is shining right now. He can just keep affording to warp in units. He still has that pylon in the main, so whenever he decides to warp in more units, using his force fields there,
GG.
and KiwiKaki KiwiKaki does GG. So the winner's bracket finals is going to go on to game number 3. HuK was able to just barely hold that off with absolutely perfect micro. Like I was saying in game 1 and game 2, he needed to hold that high ground and take advantage of KiwiKaki trying to warp in those units, and he was able to soften them up as they're warping in because they're helpless at that point, and he really, really made it work. That's why HuK was going that Immortal build rather than just countering with another 4-gate.
Intense gameplay right there, and you know what? I really think that came down to KiwiKaki deciding to go for Colossus tech, and during that window of opportunity, HuK realized that he had that window, the window where the enemy player techs up, tries to get a higher tech unit out, he has an opportunity to attack, and he exploited that very well.
Yep, and HuK was able to hold his own with his own tech advantage that he had for most of the game, pushed out right when those units got scouted. That was brilliant. He was able to warp in a couple of cycles worth of units at that proxy pylon. You gotta always check that vent. You usually want to throw down a pylon in there just to make sure that doesn't happen, but that was great game sense there by HuK to put that in there. Although at that point in the game, I think he had already pretty much had the game. It probably would have just been drug out a little bit longer, but then he was able to get those units inside. Not a lot you can do. And interestingly enough, it does look like KiwiKaki has chosen Xel'Naga Caverns.
All right, so the next map is going to be Xel'Naga Caverns for both these players. Of course, since it's a mirror matchup, no specific racial advantage, and I don't think there's going to be any kind of a cheesy play for any of these players because that can always be an option. But Xel'Naga Caverns, a fairly wide open map. There are some places where you can hide pylons, but I think that we're going to be seeing a pretty standard matchup for both these players.
Yeah, and one thing about this map I like to mention is that the high yield expansions inside the center, very difficult to defend, so you won't usually see a fast high yield, and you can't really hide it because basically when you attack your opponent, you're going to find it right away. And some of the other expansions are difficult to defend. So we are going to start this game. The countdown has begun. So this is going to be the last game of the winner's final bracket. And so whoever wins this advances to the finals. I know people tune in off and on, so I want to make sure that they realize this isn't the finals. There's still going to be a lower bracket finals to show who is going to be in the actual finals and who's going to take away that grand prize.
All right, so the players have spawned here on Xel'Naga Caverns. HuK is going to be the blue Protoss player down in the bottom left-hand corner of the map, and his opponent, KiwiKaki, going to be the red Protoss at the top right. Both players have taken one game apiece. KiwiKaki winning the first game with some brilliant 4-gate pressure, and then HuK winning the second game with brilliant force field play, trapping the 4 gates into his base, and then he was able to attack when KiwiKaki was teching up to Colossus play. So here we go, going to determine who goes on to play in the grand final here at MLG Raleigh, North Carolina. Now,
I do want to mention that the pressure's really on KiwiKaki because he has been playing that 4-gate play those last 2 games, and once your opponent figures out how to counter that build, it becomes really, really, really uncomfortable for you to try and come up with a new build. I mean, obviously he has builds that he is familiar with. He is scouting around there for some proxy pylons, but nothing was hidden behind that grass. I mean, of course, KiwiKaki, he's a good enough player to know a bunch of different builds, but when you stick with something that works and then it just all of a sudden stops working, you really have to go on something that you weren't as comfortable with, because he went that 4-gate twice, which tells me he's really, really comfortable with it.
Absolutely, Husky, and I think KiwiKaki will probably stick to his guns and continue the 4-gate pressure. I don't see any reason to alternate from it. It really is the build of choice in PvP, I think, and sometimes if you alternate from it too much, you really can put yourself in a very, very big hole. It looks like KiwiKaki here is going to be opening standard, getting that 12-gate 13 gas. Meanwhile, we have HuK pretty much going for the same route, and it looks like KiwiKaki has decided to steal the gas once again, similar to game number 1.
Yep, they both have stolen each other's gas. This is very, very common, and becoming more and more common. I remember when StarCraft 2 first came out and everyone was like, why would I steal a gas? They just have another one, because in StarCraft 1 you only had the one geyser. But once the level of play is so high and you have to basically decide when you want a certain amount of gas, if you can throw that off of a player, then it can really mess up their build and get inside their head. However, if it happens to both players, they should be able to deal with it. And one thing you can do is have your probe hide inside of that assimilator if you need to, and then try and mine minerals just to keep it alive as long as possible. Every second you can keep that alive is absolutely crucial. Do note that both players do have their cybernetics cores on the way, but HuK once again is getting a zealot. I think we've seen him do this most games, where he does prefer to get out that first zealot, while KiwiKaki seems to be saving up for his stalker.
Absolutely, Husky, and it looks like HuK here is going to be opening with, he still only has one geyser because, of course, both players have stolen a gas each, and I'm really interested to see what these players are going to go for after that cybernetics core goes down. It's going to always be a telltale sign. Usually the Protoss player will get a second gateway, but after that, will they go Robotech or will they transition into a 4 warp gate play? It looks like KiwiKaki has a little bit of extra energy on this Nexus. We'll be interested to see what he decides to utilize that on, and neither player has decided to start attacking the gas yet. There we go. HuK going to start attacking this assimilator. He wants to open that up, and HuK here is going to start chrono boosting warp gate technology out. He's got a second gateway down, so possibly going to be seeing HuK play 4 gate in this game.
It is pretty interesting to see KiwiKaki go for that first stalker because it's going to take so long to kill that building. Not only are Zealots, in their own right, pretty good at killing down those assimilators, but then you also have to wait for that stalker to finish. So look for HuK to have a little bit of an early gas advantage, which in Protoss versus Protoss, that could mean an earlier Void Ray, it could mean an earlier Phoenix, or an earlier Robotics. And if you can time your attack just right where you have that 1 unit advantage,